presented by Horns and Hooves Entertainment. You're watching Buffalo After Dark. Hey everyone, welcome to Buffalo After Dark. It is May 18th, and right now we've got Bob here. And how's everything going for you?
I'm good. I got a haircut earlier today, and it's really freaking hot down here on Long Island. I'm getting ready for my wedding, which is in about under 2 months. And yeah, we're just getting rocking and rolling for July. I mean, I can't wait.
Good stuff. Yeah, it's been a pretty interesting week. I mean, I know it's actually for everyone. Buffalo's been a tough few days, and we'll talk a little bit about it before we get into the sports stuff. But other than that, for anyone who wants to jump on tonight, of course, you can give us a call. You can give us a shout at 929-205-6099, or you can jump on the Facebook on the Facebook chat through our Horns and Hooves Entertainment page. And of course, wanted to just do a quick kick off with everything today. The whole country knows what happened this
Yeah.
past weekend. And for those who may not have heard too much about it, unfortunately in Buffalo, there was a mass casualty event where 10 people were killed in a grocery store here on Buffalo's east side. And three people who survived. Two of them were released from the hospital. One of them is still in the hospital. But one of the things I just wanted to say first and foremost is, it's been a tough week for everybody in this area, and it's something where I know my day job. I mean, I'm a recruiter. I work with a lot of people from the area, and actually a lot of people that I work with and employ are all on the east side. So just hearing some of the stories this week, it's just been tough.
Yeah, and you know what? I'm not in the area or from the area, but we all heard the news about the shooting over the weekend, and it's really sad what happened. And unfortunately, it came down to that way. And I'm sending my condolences to all the victims, to them and their families. It's a tough week for the majority of them. And you know what? At the end of the day, nobody deserves to be shot. Nobody deserves to, be motivated into a political standpoint. It doesn't matter what your politics are. At the end of the day, when you look at it, it's a tragedy and there's no way around it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, and one of the things I will say is that one thing that has happened, it brought everybody together. And Buffalo has always been known as a city of good neighbors to begin with. And one of the big things we've always done as part of this community is that we stand up for each other, we work with each other, and we support each other. And to see the outpouring of that has just been great. I mean, with businesses from here pitching in, and even places from outside of the area pitching in, same thing. It's just really good to see everyone coming together. And to those who to the people that are watching who may have family that did not survive, or that they know didn't survive or were possibly injured, our thoughts are with you. And one of the things with this show is that the good thing is at least we can try to make your day a little bit better, and at least give a little bit of entertainment tonight. And that's one of the things we enjoy doing. But our thoughts are with everybody. And we just hope the situation improves, and we know it will over time.
Yeah. And the best thing you can do right now is just hang in there, be strong, Buffalo. You guys are a great city. You have great people that live in that city. I mean, I know you guys, Tom, especially, everybody in that community is great. I've met a lot of great people in Buffalo. And, I know the community will live up to the horizons. They'll live up to the challenge, and they'll do what's best for the community. And that's the best thing we can do going forward. But we want to just make it, easing for you guys. We want to calm you down, make it a little better for you guys. So we want to put out a nice show for you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. And and we wanted to at least acknowledge what happened, and go from there. And like Bobby was saying too, I mean, we've been friends like almost 8 years now. And and he's basically, even though he's not from here, he is here. So it's one way.
I'm there in spirit. I'm there in
basically
spirit.
here. Yep, absolutely. And I just want to say, again, our thoughts and condolences go out to everybody affected. It's a rough situation right now, but kudos to everyone for standing up and supporting each other. And I know a lot of businesses have stepped in and helping the families out, and it's great to see. And and the good thing also is that Topps came out. They said that they will reopen the store when they're able to, once the investigation wraps up. And it's I remember back when that store wasn't even there. It's only been there almost 20 years, and that community fought to get it. They got it. It's their store, and it's their place. So good for them on wanting to come back to the community and reopen and get everything as back to as normal as possible. And same thing. I mean, they opened up a fund that right off the bat, I mean, they're going to put up $500,000 to help with the families and what they need. So good for them. It wasn't their fault, but they're helping them out in any way possible. And same thing with a lot of other places around here.
No, listen, it's nobody's fault. It was never meant to be, a situation where we just be like, oh, we expect it to happen. You know what I mean? Like,
yep.
Nobody thought that would be the case.
Yep, absolutely. Just one lone person that decides to screw it up for everybody. But at least the good thing is, kudos to the police department too. They caught him. That he's going to get whatever happens to him, and the community will come back. We are strong, and we will be stronger.
Yes, you will, without a doubt.
Yep, absolutely. So, with that being said, let's get on to some better stuff, because I don't want us to be depressed for an hour on this show.
Yeah,
so,
we don't want.
We don't want that, but we did want to at least acknowledge it. So 929-205-6099 gets you on the air. Let's talk about some football, and there's two big things we want to hit here on the show tonight. First, Monday Night Football flex scheduling is going to be coming this season.
Yeah, so apparently the report is that the director of scheduling, I think his name is Mike North. He currently came out and he said this year coming up that there will be a flex scheduling for weeks 14 through 18 to have a potential triple header or double header on Monday Night Football going forward. So if some people feel there should be a game on the schedule that should be going on Monday night, then they'll flex it. So it's kind of like what they normally do on Sunday Night Football. So instead of having to do one game a week, it's going to be possibly two by week 14.
This could be an interesting thing, because I mean, there are definitely some pretty good matchups that could be coming around that week 14 to 18 span. So making it be a Monday Night Football game, I mean, why not? Go for it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, what's the harm to it? I mean, could you imagine some games got flexed to for the Bills, because who knows? I mean, there's a possibility, but who knows if the Bills get a flex schedule coming up?
Yeah, it very well could happen. So, I mean, we've seen it with the Sunday games for a little bit now, but why not do the Monday night? So, yeah, it'll be an interesting concept to see how it takes place this season. And, and speaking of this coming season, we're going to have some interesting stuff coming up, because we are taking the show on the road to Kansas City.
Yes, we are. So for those who don't know, I posted it earlier today to confirm with you guys what our plans are. And we've been talking about this. Tom and I and Sean O'Malley and my wife Brittany by that point have been talking about doing this for a while. And what happened was, we were originally back in January when the opponents came out, we were entertaining the idea about going to Cincinnati. And what happened was, my wife's job, like any job really, all said that they weren't allowed to take off on the 2023 schedule because the compilation days, or whatever they're called, vacation days, don't go over to the new year. So we had no choice but to stay within the calendar year in the year 2022. So we were all really upset. We were all really disappointed about not going to Cincinnati, because that was like what we agreed to do. And it was between 3 or 4 other cities. And we broke it down bit by bit. And we said, okay, so if Cincinnati's out of the picture, what other city could we go to? So we decided on 4 of them. Sean projected Miami and Kansas City. Mm-hmm. Brittany said New England and Kansas City. I said Kansas City and Baltimore. And what did you say, Tom?
Yep. So I was thinking Kansas City, Baltimore, and making the trip to Foxborough for the Patriots.
Yeah. And we were talking about this for over an hour, and we were trying to think of all possibilities. So we crossed off the Dolphins because it's very expensive in Miami. Plus, you could see them twice a year. We crossed off the Patriots because of the same reason. they're in the same division and you could see them anytime. It's not like you have to make plans within that year to go see a specific team. So you could see New England anytime. Baltimore, Brittany didn't want to go to Baltimore because, it's not the best place in America to go to for anywhere in the state of Maryland, with all the gun violence and all the, stuff going on in the city, it's not the best place in the world. But so we decided to vote out Baltimore. So we were only left with one option. And what was that city, Tom?
Kansas City. And yes, we are going to Arrowhead.
Oh my God. Yeah. So, and the funny thing is before he passed away, my wife's father had 4 gift cards for over $100 from Ticketmaster. And when we found out that this happened, we were like, we should go on a road trip. And she was like, I knew you were going to say that. So I said, let's go invite Buffalo After Dark and see what they said. So Adam said no. Andy said no. Sean definitely said yes. You said yes. And then us two. So it's me, my wife, Brittany, Sean, and of course, Tom. The 4 of us are going to Kansas City on October 16th for the Week 6 matchup against the Kansas City Chiefs at Arrowhead Stadium in October.
Yep. And anyone who has never been to Arrowhead, which I mean, I've never been there, but everything I have ever read about Arrowhead is that it is a top 5 must-see stadium in the NFL.
Yeah, and I think you said it was like number 1 or number 2 on your bucket list to go to of the places to go to in the NFL.
Yeah, it definitely is because I mean, on my bucket list, number 1 is Lambeau. That's always number 1 on my list that I want to go to because you just can't beat the history of what they have at that stadium, and especially with the Packers and everything that they've ever done there. But number 2, I mean, Kansas City was up there as well. And everything I've ever heard about Arrowhead, it's a fun stadium to go to. The tailgating is really good. I mean, you can't beat Kansas City barbecue either. I mean, they've got some great stuff. And plus, I mean, the other thing I kind of looked at is that it's a totally different spot. I've never been to the state of Missouri or to the state of Kansas before. So with having things on both sides of the river that we can go to, I mean, I'm like, hey, why not? And it's something where I think for me, like if I were to drive in there, it's like a 15-hour ride, but flying in there, I mean, I can be there in less than 4 hours. So that actually kind of works out. And then on top of it, I mean, really, the other places I had thought about that I would ever want to go to for a football game. I mean, I would love to visit that SoFi Stadium in LA at some point, but it's just so expensive to even go there. I mean, who knows what'll happen there? But
yeah, that's like forget it. There's no way you can get a ticket at SoFi Stadium, whether if you're a Chiefs fan or a Rams fan or a Chargers fan.
Right.
There's no way. Or even something like the Super Bowl. There's no way you can get tickets for that.
Yeah, place. Exactly. And then one of the other places I had thought about at some point, I mean, I would actually love to visit the stadium in Seattle. I would love to go to Lumen Field over in downtown Seattle. And that's actually just a lot of the stuff that's right on the coast over there is pretty sweet. And then besides that, I mean, I will have to come down to New York and watch a game at MetLife at some point. And then really besides that, I mean, there weren't really too many other bucket like must-see places I have to go to.
Well, I mean, for me, unless you're asking on that perspective, Lambeau is definitely on my number 1. I definitely had Kansas City because I was talking to Brittany about this a few months back, and we were even talking about it, and we were like, if there was any opportunity to go to Kansas City, and this was before we agreed to Plan B, because Plan A was Cincinnati, and that was we have to at least see Kansas City one time in Kansas City in Arrowhead to see Patrick Mahomes one time. That's the only thing you could do. But as far as like stadiums that I would love to go to, I have at least 3 on the top of my head. One being Lambeau Field. That, you can't beat the history with the Packers over there. That's number 1. Number 2, I would love to go see Lincoln Financial Field in Philadelphia. I would love to see that.
Yeah.
And and then at number 3 was harder for me to pick, but I'm going to go ahead and say probably, damn it, what was that stadium? Help me out here, Tom.
What city are you thinking?
That's what it was. US Bank Stadium, home of the Minnesota Vikings. That's what it was.
Ah, okay. The one that looks like the Viking ship from the outside.
Yeah, I mean, I heard it's really pretty, but I'm willing to go to any stadium in the NFL for at least a road game, you know, because that's something that we could potentially be doing traditionally is the four of us get together every year, depending, of course, on our plans, and
Right.
go to a different city every year.
Yeah, and I had thought about like here and there, like would I like to go to Philadelphia and watch a game over there. And I mean, and I heard that stadium is pretty neat. So I mean, and they have a good fan base over there. So I mean, that would be pretty cool to go through. I mean, Nashville, Tennessee, I've been near Nissan Stadium before. I've never been in it, but I mean, I've been near it
Yeah.
plenty of times. Nashville is actually a fun city to go to.
Yeah. I've been to Nashville. I've been to
Yeah,
Tennessee.
yeah, and then really besides that, I mean, well, I would say Lambeau and KC were my two top choices. Would I like to see a game in Baltimore sometime? Don't have to. I mean, it's always an option. But one place I definitely have on my bucket list though is Heinz Field in Pittsburgh. And part of it is because, well, like where the stadium is, it's pretty cool where they have it located. It's right on the river. The other thing
Yeah.
is, the Steelers, they're basically like my second team because I had an apartment in Pittsburgh back in '07. So they're kind of like my second team. And I do have some Pittsburgh Steelers stuff, and I'm not afraid to admit it. But just I think part of it is just it's a fun city to watch a game, and it's a pretty neat stadium that they got there. And I remember when that was built. So I mean, and there's so much that's right around their downtown area there that's easy to get to, a lot of attractions, and it's just a good city. So one of the things I will put up, and I know Sean's probably gonna be in a little bit late because of work, but one of the things I'll put up there is that if we have an opportunity like Bills and Pittsburgh in a road game, I'm in.
It also depends on the timing because, again,
Yep.
what happened earlier this past weekend with the Cincinnati trip, you got to be careful because how do you know if that game doesn't fall in January? Then we're fucked.
Very true. Very true. So that would be something I would even throw it in there. Like if the schedule comes up to where the Bills are in Pittsburgh next year, I'll definitely do a road trip with that. I mean, that's a quick 3.5 hour ride for me. So
Let's find out if they are because I definitely know they're playing the Steelers next year. Let's see, 2023 opponents. Let's find out. I got your back.
okay.
As far as that goes, 2023 opponents. Let's see. They do wait. Yeah, they have an AFC North team. They're going to a city that's in the AFC North, but it's not who it. But it's not. It might not be Pittsburgh. It might not even be Cincinnati. We'll find out next year when the schedule comes out. And they're projected to play a team in the NFC South, which is like Carolina, Tampa, Atlanta, New Orleans, etc. And then they have one more in the AFC South, which I assume is the Titans. I mean, I would have to imagine, or maybe
Yeah, probably
Indianapolis.
gotta
But
be.
we'll find out. So
Yeah.
let's just focus on this year, and then we'll talk about next year. What do you
Mhm.
say?
Yeah, that works out. And I'll tell you one thing, Tampa's a fun city too. I've been there. So it's but honestly, I would love to go into Sean's neck of the woods sometime and see a game in Atlanta.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind. I would love to see a game in New Orleans.
Ooh, Cajun
I
food.
would I would love to see the Superdome. I would love to see that.
Hmm. Yeah, I would love to be in the French Quarter. Yeah, some good
Yeah,
old style New Orleans grub.
yeah, for
Yeah.
certain.
As we get closer to the trip, though, I mean, we'll fill everybody in on some different things that we're doing with it, and of course, I mean, we might even do a show on the road over there. So, I mean, don't be surprised if we do that even at Arrowhead. So, of course, if anyone wants to jump on 92920560099, we'll get you on. And the NHL has seen a lot of interesting things this week, but one of the things I can tell you right off the bat, Barry Trotz is in high demand because a lot of teams are looking at him, and only one team is going to be lucky enough to get him.
Actually, multiple. There's actually multiple teams that are interested in him. One was confirmed yesterday. What's it, Wednesday? So yesterday, Barry Trotz had an interview with the Winnipeg Jets, and he's expected to have an interview with the Philadelphia Flyers on Friday. So we'll find out what happens from there on out. And I would also suspect Vegas is going to be in there. Somebody actually suggested in the Twitter comment section with the Toronto Maple Leafs that they should fire Sheldon Keefe and bring in Barry Trotz.
That would be interesting because I mean, and I get the argument on that, because I mean, Sheldon Keefe, ever since he came in and took over from Mike Babcock, I mean, Sheldon Keefe has gotten Toronto to the playoffs, but they've choked and they've like crashed and burned in the first round every single year.
Yeah, and I also read a stat the other day that said that the Toronto Maple Leafs are the first professional team in the Major Four to lose 5 straight Game 7s in a row.
Oh man.
How the fuck do you do that?
Yeah, seriously.
How do you do that? I'm curious. How do you do that?
I know. That's one of the things I have to, I'm like asking also, it's like, how is it that you lose that often? I mean, they bought the team. I mean, you got Tavares, you've got Austin Matthews, you have a whole cast of players there that can absolutely do everything.
And you have William Nylander, you have Mitch Marner, you have, and then you bring Jake Muzzin. I mean, the Toronto Maple Leafs are stacked on offense, and yet they still can't win in the playoffs. And now there's a possibility that Jack Campbell might not even re-sign with the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Wow. Oh man.
Yeah, imagine that. Imagine your best goalie in the last few years outside Franny Anderson says, "Oh, I want to stay in Toronto, but you don't have the money for me." Yeah, imagine that.
Oh yeah. Well, sorry, Toronto Maple Leafs, but I know Luffy will probably say something about that at some point.
Listen, the Leafs are like the Cowboys. They don't ever shut the fuck up about how they're going to win a championship. This is our year. And yet they get their ass beat in the playoffs in the first round every year, just like the Dallas Cowboys.
Yep. Just like
Just
how
throwing it out there.
Yeah, just like how Dak Prescott just like how Dak Prescott thinks he's worth more money than he actually got paid, or even worse, Kyler Murray thinking he's worth 70 mil a year.
Oh, speaking of Mitch Marner, did you hear about what happened with him getting hijacked in a movie theater or by?
Yeah, so it happened like right after the loss, but 3 people actually ended up carjacking him at knife point.
Yeah, it was in a certain part of Toronto, and some 3 guys literally hijacked Mitch Marner's car and stole a few valuables, and it was right outside of a movie theater. So I'm sitting there thinking, okay, that's got to be embarrassing. I mean, I feel bad for him. I mean, he's a human being, and it's shitty that he, got robbed and all that. But it's like, isn't it a little weird to me, or at least to you, that the timing of afterwards as a kind of a punishment to losing Game 7 is kind of like, oh, we're gonna just hijack your car.
Oh yeah. It's like literally, it's like, okay, well, you lose that game, so you're out of the playoffs. And then to add insult to injury, it's like, oh yeah, you get pulled over and you lose your money.
Yep. I don't know. The Toronto Maple Leafs are just a never-ending piece of torture at all. Like they can never relieve the pain for their fans ever, and they haven't in a long time. Like what, 56 years? That's right. Almost as bad as the New York Rangers 54-year drought before 1994.
Yeah, and it's like literally Toronto. I don't know if there's like a curse or what the deal is, but I mean they haven't managed to do really anything in the playoffs, no matter what they've done to build the team.
I don't understand them. I don't get it. I mean, they're clearly better than the Sabres on paper, but the Maple Leafs are just shit. Like, I don't know where to begin with the Toronto Maple Leafs, as far as I'm concerned. I mean, Austin Matthews is great, obviously. He's a great player. But I've got a feeling, and when you look back on his contract, when he signed that 5-year extension a couple years ago, it makes you wonder, does he know something about the team that nobody is willing to admit?
Well, I'm thinking my guess would be is that he knows that the team around him sucks, so take all the money while you can.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, and everybody's saying, oh, Austin Matthews will go back to Arizona where he will grow up. Like, the dude is from California, but he grew up in Arizona. So it's like, what the fuck do you do? I mean, the Leafs I feel like they're not going to be in panic mode. They're not in desperation. But it seems like to me they're going to go all in this summer, and they're going to go over the cap even more, and they're going to try to get more players to help them choke in the playoffs. It's so shitty, Tom, that they actually have a mini series on Amazon Prime about their season.
Yeah,
I forget what the show is called, but it's definitely revolving around the Toronto Maple Leafs.
That is pretty bad. But here's actually one thing that's even more embarrassing. How about what's going to happen with Arizona this year when they move into that arena and they can't even have their logo painted on the ice.
Jesus Christ, that's embarrassing. What the fuck?
Yeah. So basically, what happened is, for anyone who doesn't know their arena situation, is that um, the Arizona Coyotes are going to play in Tempe, and basically they're going to play where Arizona State plays.
The
So
Arizona Sun Devils. Yeah,
yeah,
The Arizona State University hockey team.
yeah. And Arizona State University basically told the Coyotes, okay, this is the way it's going to be. We come first. You come like a miserable second. Our logo will be on the ice. You don't get to do anything on the ice. And if we deem any of your conduct as a poor representation of Arizona State University, we can end your arena deal at any time.
Well, to be fair, Tom, that deal is only 3 years. So it's not like it's a 15-year deal. The Coyotes are in such shambles that it's so pathetic that not only are they playing in a 5,000 seat arena in the middle of Arizona State University, but they're also are not going to be able to get their logo on center ice like any other team. And the most fucking embarrassing thing about all this is when the Islanders were in Brooklyn for a couple of years, at least the Islanders were able to get their logo on the ice.
Yeah. And they got their own locker rooms and everything.
The Coyotes are just like, blah. But there is kind of an explanation to why this is the case. And apparently the report is, and I'm reading this off of NHL News Update on Facebook, and the article states, that the Arizona Coyotes will not be permitted to use their own logo at center ice in this coming season. The all-in ice advertising will be a revenue source for the Arizona State University hockey team, and the Coyotes are not allowed to modify the look of the ice surface.
Oh my God.
I don't understand how they're in the league at this point. Like, this is flat out bad, dude.
Right. I guess another question I would have is why would they even sign such a deal if they can't even promote themselves?
I honestly don't know. It's just so fucking bad as far as like the fact that the Coyotes aren't playing in a college hockey arena is so embarrassing. Nobody cares about hockey in Arizona. The only fucking thing worth a damn about that is getting Austin Matthews. That's it. Nothing outside of that has not panned out. And Gary Bettman is too stubborn after the last 25 years to relocate the team. He's too stubborn, and he's convinced that this shiny toy of his is going to pan out in the state of Arizona. It's not like Florida where you have two teams where both of them are in the playoffs and one has had success more than the other. This is the Coyotes. They are so bad. Like, they're playing in a college hockey level arena. And on top of all that, they were talking about moving them to Quebec City just a summer ago. And yet here they are playing in a 3-year lease in a college hockey arena. That is embarrassing. Imagine like what the Chargers did a few years ago when they were playing in a soccer stadium with under 100,000 seats or 10,000 seats or whatever the number was.
Yeah, I think it was only like trying to think where the Chargers played. I think well, I'll find out, but it was only I think like a max of like 20,000 seats or something like that.
That's still horrible.
It is.
This is just a slap in the face.
Right. Yeah, so it turns out with what I ended up looking at. So they played at Dignity Health Sports Park is what the name of the stadium is. And basically less than 30,000 seats for NFL football.
Oh my God. That's so embarrassing.
Wait, God, even Barclays, when the Islanders were there, I mean, at least they still had more than 12,000 seats.
Yeah, and better yet, at least the Islanders were able to have some sort of success at Barclay, even though it was very brief.
Right. And even though it's not built for hockey, they still found a way to make it work for a few years.
I agree. And yet they still managed to get a brand new shiny stadium, and they managed to go back to the Nassau Coliseum for a couple of years, which I was happy they were able to do, and then go back to where they belong, which is rightfully theirs, which is UBS Arena. It belongs to the Islanders, not to Nassau County. Right. So the Coyotes, they don't have that right. They don't have an opportunity to get their own stadium. They don't have an opportunity to say what they want to have and what they can have and what they don't want. You know, they don't get that authority. because that's how bad the Coyotes are being treated in the Arizona market. They're so shitty that the college team is telling them, listen, we're your overlords. We are your dad. And we are going to make you do what we want. And our first order of business is you are not going to put your shitty ass logo in the middle of our fucking ice surface.
Yep.
That is embarrassing. I know somebody who's a Coyotes fan, and it's just like, geez, just give up. They're probably going to relocate in a couple of years unless there's some sort of an agreement for a new stadium in a couple of years, which I guarantee is not going to do well because nobody goes to the fucking games. They're so bad over there.
Right. And then, I mean, there's fans saying, oh, well, if you move it to Tempe, that's where all the fans are. It's like, okay, we've heard this before. We heard all the fans were in Glendale. They built the arena there. Nobody showed up.
Yeah, and now they're getting another stadium.
Right. And the arena in Glendale is less than 20 years old. So it's like, how many new stadiums do you need before you figure out it doesn't work there?
Well, that's going to be up to Gary Bettman, and it's also going to be up to the ownership. And speaking of ownership, with the Coyotes, it's in a game of executive hot potato because there's a new ownership every 2-3 years.
Mm-hmm. It's like, what does that tell you?
They're so fucking bad. Like, I can't fathom what the Coyotes are going through right now. I just can't imagine that. I mean, they've developed some players, but it's not like a city like Toronto where it's like, hey, there's guys from Toronto. Hey, this guy's from Calgary. You know what I mean? Hey, this guy's from Vancouver. Hey, this guy's from Saskatchewan. You know, there's all these provinces in Canada. At least there's some loyalty. Who the fuck cares about the Coyotes?
Yeah, hardly anybody. And here's another thing. Quebec City, they have the NHL style arena for it. They built one brand new to get an NHL team. That team sells out an 18,000 plus seat arena for junior hockey. What does that tell you?
A lot. They sell out more than the Coyotes.
Yeah. Yeah, they sell it for the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League. And that's the only tenant right now. The Quebec City, it's like the Quebec Ramparts.
Yeah, I love how Sean's like, oh, I hate
sell out.
I love how Sean's like, oh, I hate the Coyotes because they keep beating the Kraken. I'm like, well, you shouldn't really hate them because they're a fucking embarrassment.
Yeah. I mean, and Sean, here's the thing. The Kraken, they will go on to do better things. They will be a better team. I mean, you got to remember, it was only year one in the NHL, and normally year one teams always suck. It's just that the Kraken sucked less than most other expansion teams.
Yeah, for the Coyotes, this is year 25, and they've only had one legit good year.
Yeah. And then look what happened. They lost a lot of good players. Oliver Ekman-Larsson was doing a lot of stuff for the Coyotes. Look what happened. Shane Doan, another one. Yep.
He's probably the best player that ever played for them. They had Keith Tkachuk, Jeremy Roenick. They had those guys too. They all said fuck off.
Yeah, and they still couldn't get anything done.
And that's the thing about them is that they're not going to learn anytime soon.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And that's the sad thing about it, because, I mean, they have a nice arena. Well, I mean, that hockey arena is not bad. I know people have gone there, but the fans are not supporting it. So it's like, I guess my question to Gary Bettman is, why are you stuck on stupid? Like, seriously, Bettman? It's like, it doesn't work. Have them sell the team, move it to Quebec City, get that Canadian, like, anti-Canada out of you, and put a team there. They want the team and they'll support it.
Do you think, though, Bill, if Dale Bailey were to become the commissioner, because there's talks that Gary Bettman might have signed his last CBA contract with the league, so there's a possibility that he might retire. But if there's any sort of like argument about it, like let's say Bill Daly does become the commissioner, do you think he has the ability to relocate the Coyotes?
I would think it's possible. I mean, if the NHL takes ownership of the team again, they could. But
well,
I could see it possibly being an option, like being forced at some point.
I mean, if they could do that with the Thrashers, what makes you think the Coyotes are not victims next?
Exactly. I mean, in Atlanta, that was a very quick move once that went into play. I mean, it was not even a year.
And the sad thing is, half of the state doesn't even remember them.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's how bad Thrashers did in hockey.
Right. No,
I'm
it's very true.
just throwing it out there.
Yeah. And I think that Winnipeg could be a possible landing site for Barry Trotz is interesting. But then again, I mean, the Flyers are looking at him and there's other teams that are looking at him.
I agree.
Yeah. But we'll see what happens. but that being said, though, how about the Pittsburgh Penguins?
Pittsburgh is in a very interesting position. I will say that.
It's very true.
Yeah, it's supposedly there's a bit of a turmoil and dispute of a contract between Evgeny Malkin and Chris Letang. And they both were offered $15 million combined for the next 3 years. And they both said no. And Sidney Crosby is reportedly not happy about it.
Yeah. And you gotta think too, Crosby's getting towards the back end of his career.
Well, Crosby's going to be there for his entire career. Let's face it.
Yep.
Yeah, he will never wear another jersey again. Sidney Crosby will only wear one jersey, and that's the Pittsburgh Penguins. Malkin and Letang, though, I've heard rumors about Montreal for Letang, and I've also heard rumors about the Seattle Kraken. So I honestly don't know where that's going to go, but you never know with these guys. And for Pittsburgh with Malkin, I'm not exactly sure. I think Malkin has a better chance of re-signing with the Penguins than Chris Letang does.
Right. Well, I think part of it for the Pens is that Malkin is more of the impact player versus Letang. I mean, Letang is definitely going to be the more expendable out of the two.
Oh, yeah. And you also have to keep in mind, he's also 35 years old and he's injury prone. So whoever pays him, they're going to have to keep that in mind because he's going to want a lot of money. I would suspect that Letang's probably going to get like maybe $7.5 million, maybe 6.5, depending on what the contract is. Maybe get something like a 5-year deal from like a team like Montreal, maybe Toronto. I don't know. I don't think Toronto can afford it, but you know what I mean. Seattle, I would not be surprised if they were in on Chris Letang. It's a possibility. I also wouldn't be shocked if fucking Buffalo was on it, but I don't think they're going to want to pay Letang that much money to be injury prone. I don't think it's worth it.
Right. And especially with what the Sabres are trying to do and with how they're trying to build a team, I don't honestly see where Letang would fit into the picture in this case.
I do see the Sabres being in the mix for Jack Campbell, but that's a different topic.
Right. Yeah, it's a totally different situation altogether. But Chris Letang, I just don't see him spending that much money on him. Is Letang a good player? Yeah, he is. But is he worth that much to come here for such a short time? And I just don't see it.
No, me neither. I mean, he would be great, but like I said, he's always hurt. So there would be no reason to bring him in.
Right. 100% agree. And, one of the other things that we'll get into before we finish up the show tonight is we're going to definitely dive into the playoffs a little bit because there were some interesting ends to the series that took place with round one. So one of the things I could tell you, Boston sucks to be you right now.
Well, forget Boston. Boston is a joke this year. I mean, they went 7 games with Carolina, but they almost had little to no show in game 7. I will say that for certain. It's like, holy shit, Boston's a one and done team at this point, I think. I mean, they're getting up there in age. They're just like Pittsburgh. They're getting up there in age and, people are going to end up leaving pretty soon. And there was even, if you saw the last minute of game 7, when the game wrapped up, there was a scene during the game before the Bruins went to the locker room was where Patrice Bergeron was bringing up a ton of speculation of whether or not he might retire. He might leave the Bruins because I think he's a free agent at the end of the year. He might get traded. We don't really know. So Patrice Bergeron's future with the team is uncertain, and he's their captain. So that's going to be a big factor with the Boston Bruins going up. But I feel like that I can't picture Patrice Bergeron on another team other than the Bruins. I just don't see it.
Yeah, it's kind of like the situation with, Crosby, you'll never see him on another team. Ovechkin, you'll never see him on another team. Bergeron, he basically bleeds the Boston Bruins.
Absolutely. I think he is the Boston Bruins because I think he's been there since like 2004.
Yeah, literally his entire career. So, do we see him go to another team? No, I don't think it happens.
But keep in mind, he's also a free agent at the end of the year. So it's a possibility.
Very true. And then another thing that was interesting is Well, of course, we already talked about how Toronto ended up blowing it in this
Oh
series
my
again.
god! How the fuck do you do that? I'm sorry.
I know.
How do you do you see that video that went viral on Twitter with Steve Dangle where he's throwing a fit about the Maple Leafs?
Yeah, that was great.
And he's waving his arms like a fucking idiot. It's like 5 straight years.
I know. And I almost have to wonder, like, what are they gonna do with that team? Is like, do you blow up the core and put a new core in there, or do you just change a couple of the key players out? Because right now we've seen what happens.
They're not going to blow up the team, number one. Number two, I could definitely see them making some adjustments to their lineup. There was talks, Tom, that John Tavares could end up moving from the center to the wing.
That would be an interesting take on it.
See, but that's what I don't agree with. It's like you brought him in as a center. You bring him in as one of your core members, and you're looking to move him at the wing. There was even one rumor that they might end up trading him, which I seriously doubt the Leafs are going to do that.
Right. And it's almost like Toronto is like, what is your plan? It's like you're bringing in all these good players, which I mean, there's no doubt Tavares is a good player. Matthews, we know what he's capable with. I mean, we know what Marner is capable with. We know what Nylander can do. It's like Toronto, how are you not having everything gel together?
Well, here's your answer, Tom. It's right in front of you. They paid for 4 guys for over $100 million or $48 million combined, and that yet they have no cap space to fix any of the other needs like defense, depth, and goaltending. They cannot address this, and those 4 contracts alone are going to kill the Toronto Maple Leafs long term. They're in limbo because I'm pretty sure they want to keep Jack Campbell around, but they can't afford him.
Oh, if the Sabres could land them.
Yeah. So let's go on cap friendly for just a minute because I want to see what the cap situation is for everybody. I know for a fact that the core 4 are all being paid around $10 to $11 million. So yeah, right here, final cap space is they are under $100,000 in the final cap space of the season. The Toronto Maple Leafs do not have a second or third round pick. So put it this way. Guess how many picks they have in the 2022 NHL draft?
A lot less than they would want.
Take a guess.
I would say maybe 3.
Exactly. Yeah, they have 3 picks in the entire draft. They have a first round pick, a third round pick from Winnipeg, in which they got for who did the freaking Leafs get in that deal? Oh shit. Who did the Leafs get? Who did they trade to Toronto? It wasn't Appleton.
No, it wasn't that. No, it wasn't him.
Who was it that got traded from Toronto? From Winnipeg to Toronto? Do you remember who it was?
I'm gonna try to find out real quick.
Not that it matters, but the point I'm trying to make is the Leafs are just trading every aspect of their team. And put it like this. Ready? Austin Matthews, $11.64 million until 2024. John Tavares is making $11 million until 2025. Mitch Marner is making $10.93 million until 2025. William Nylander is making $6.962 million until 2024. Alex Kerfoot is making under 3.5 until 2023. So if you look at it from the ground up, half of the Toronto Maple Leafs core is in deep trouble. And the worst part is Jack Campbell is bound to walk as a free agent. Meanwhile, they're stuck with Peter fucking Mrazek until 2024.
Oh, God.
That is how bad this situation is in Toronto. Oh, and I forgot to mention Jake Muzzin on the defense. Jake Muzzin at $5.625 million is making that amount of money until 2024. Morgan Riley is not a free agent until how many years does he have on his contract? Holy fuck. Shit. He's got at least 5 more years on his contract until at least 2027. And then TJ Brody is making $5 million until 2024. Mark Giordano is a free agent at the end of the year. Justin Hall is a free agent at $2 million in 2023. And Ilya Lyubushkin, who they got in Arizona at the trade deadline, is making $3.5 million, and he's at UFA this year. So the Toronto Maple Leafs have a lot of cap problems right now, and they spent the majority of their cap on 4 players, and that's containing Matthews, Tavares, Marner, and Nylander. Then my only guess is the only thing they can really do is bring in free agents for a cheaper price.
Oh, good job, Toronto.
Yeah, the Toronto Maple Leafs are going to be in for a long, painful summer.
Yep. The definition of cap hell.
Oh, God. Welcome to hell, boys.
Oh, man. It would be hilarious if Luffy was here because he'd probably be going in a rage about it.
Yeah. And on top of all that, one more kick in the nuts. The Leafs are also paying $1.2 million of the remainder of Phil Kessel's contract until the end of this year.
That's even better.
Dear fucking Lord. The Toronto Maple Leafs long term are screwed. Screwed.
Yes, they are. Yes, they are.
But their fans will never admit it, though. Even Adam, I don't think will admit it. And he probably knows that they're in cap hell, but he thinks that Jack Campbell is going to stay in Toronto, which I'm like, I don't know. I mean, when you have 4 contracts that big, then they're hard to move. So be careful what you wish for.
Right. I almost have to doubt it, quite honestly.
Yeah, I think if the Leafs miss again, do you think if the Leafs choke again in the playoffs, do you think they fire Kyle Dubas?
It's very possible. I wouldn't say that they don't.
We'll find out next year in 2023. I mean, the Leafs will definitely make the playoffs, but I can't take them seriously. I just can't at this point until they prove me wrong. Until they get past the first round, I cannot take them seriously.
It's almost like if you're an opposing team, let's say like the Sabres were to get into playoffs and you have to match up against Toronto. I would want that matchup because I know if I push them to game 7, they ain't going to win.
Yeah, and the scarier part is Buffalo has more playoff wins in the last 20 years than the Toronto Maple Leafs.
That's even funnier. In the last 10 years, we've absolutely sucked.
That's even worse. And the Leafs have a super team.
Right. And they can't even make it past game 7.
That's embarrassing.
Of the first round.
You lose to Montreal, you lose to Boston twice, and then you lose to Tampa. It's like, fuck. When does the insanity stop with these people?
Right. And both times they played Boston, I mean, okay, I get that. Tampa was just on fire. So I totally understand their point of even though game 1 wasn't that great in the series, I mean, Tampa came back and just piled it on. But Montreal? I mean,
yeah, I don't know what to say about the Leafs.
Me either. Other than they don't know how to finish the job. So That's one thing. But I mean, and a couple other things that we thought about too in the playoffs. I mean, we knew that Nashville was going to get destroyed. So of course, out west, the Colorado Avalanche versus St. Louis Blues. That's a good series.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a really good series. I predicted in the beginning, if you remember a few weeks ago, I predicted St. Louis. I predicted St. Louis to
Hey, Bobby, you still there?
Oh, yeah, there I am. Yep. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Excellent.
You're back on.
Yeah, my freaking Joby stand just collapsed. So I apologize. Anyway, St. Louis. I think that they're going to win the series in 6 over the Avalanche, and I know a lot of people are jumping to the conclusion, but I think the Blues are going to be better than what people say about them.
I mean, they have a pretty good team. There's no doubt about that. And but one of the other battles I'm looking at for the series for out west, the Battle of Alberta.
Oh yeah, that's the one I'm looking forward to the most in the second round.
Yeah, Flames versus the Oilers. I will tell you, those two teams hate each other.
Absolutely, and this is the first time in 31 years that these two teams are going to be meeting in the playoffs. So with that said, I'm going to stick with my guns, and I'm going to say the Calgary Flames beat the Edmonton Oilers in 6 games from my bracket. I have Calgary winning that series.
Yeah. And I was along the same mindset because the thing is, I mean, Edmonton, yes, they have a good team. I mean, they have McJesus. We already know that. Draisaitl, they have a good core in there. I just don't see them matching up as well with Calgary in this case. And the other thing I look at is that it was a tough series against LA, even. And it seems like my impression is Edmonton barely made it out of LA.
Yeah, I mean, Edmonton got away with a shutout, and people were thinking, okay, we got past the first round. Like that's really like we desperately needed to. Now we have to play Calgary in the second round, and it's almost like, how do you deal with that? Like seriously, how do you deal with the fact that you are not only going into the second round for the first time in like 5-6 years, but you have to go up against your biggest rival within the same province?
Right. And Calgary always turns it on when Edmonton comes to town and so forth.
Oh yeah, Calgary. I think to me, I think the only thing Oilers have are McDavid and Draisaitl, but outside of that, I think the Flames are a better all-around team.
Right. Yeah, I agree. And I just think right now Calgary's got too much firepower on them. And they have a pretty good roster overall too. I mean, you look at Michael Backlund, you've got him, Ryan Carpenter, Blake Coleman, Dylan Dubé. Um,
Yeah, you
Basically the
have
list
Johnny
goes on and
Gaudreau.
on. Yeah, Elias Lindholm. I mean, he's a
Yeah,
proven player. I
Elon
mean,
Nucci.
yeah. And then Goudreau, I mean, he's been making an impact for him. I mean, you have Goudreau, Lucic. I mean, you have Matt Kachuk and Tyler Toffoli. You've got a pretty good group of wingers on that team.
Oh, and of course they traded for Cal Yarkerock, who we talked about on the show a few months ago during the trade deadline.
Yep.
And Shamik was like, "Oh my god, yep." So
Yeah.
and that trade happened on the air, and I'm just like, "Wow, I can't believe I caught that." But
I remember that.
no, but yeah, Battle of Alberta though should be very interesting, and I can't wait to see what the outcome is. So bottom line, I believe, and I still will stick by it, and I still believe that the Calgary Flames will win that series in 6 games.
Yeah. I'm thinking it may go to a game 7, but I do have to favor Calgary in this case. Depth wise, they're better all around. And I think that they're the more complete team of the two right now. And plus, the other thing I also look at, I mean, defensively, Calgary, I think, is a little bit better than what Edmonton's going to offer. I mean, with Anderson, you have Hannafin, which I remember when he was traded from the Hurricanes to Calgary. I mean, Hannafin's made a nice jump on the Flames, and he's actually boosted their defense. I mean, you have Michael Stone, Christopher Tanev, Zadorov. I remember when he played with the Sabres way back when.
Yep. And of course, we can't talk about the Flames without not saying Matthew Kachuk.
Exactly. And then goaltending, they're pretty decent too, with Jacob Markstrom behind in between the pipes. So
Yeah. For me, I trust Markstrom in this case than I do Mike Smith because you never know what version of Mike Smith you're going to get.
right. You'll either get the really good version, who is basically unbeatable, or you'll get absolute crap. Take your choice.
Yeah, I could say the same thing about Jacob Markstrom. I honestly don't know what to expect from him, but I do expect this game, or let alone this series, I expect it to be an intense one. I fully expect the Battle of Alberta to be reborn from this series going forward. I mean, going back to that brawl they had in Calgary a few years ago, I think that was what rejuvenated the rivalry. But I think now, with the two of them now meeting again for the first time in 30 years, I definitely think there's a shot that the Oilers and the Flames are going to duke it out. It's going to be a whole on, bloody mess of a war. That's what I think
Right.
it's going to be.
Old time hockey, finally.
Oh,
so,
oh yeah.
so we got that. And then on top of that, I mean, besides, of course, Colorado versus St. Louis and the Battle of Alberta out west, we have the Battle of Florida in the east.
The Battle of the Sunshine State. Honestly, I don't know what to think of that one. I really don't. I think that, and I still stick by my prediction. And I said the Florida Panthers. What was I going to say? I firmly think that the Florida Panthers are going to win the series in 6 games over Tampa. I mean, Florida looked out flat the other night against Tampa in game 1. They just did not look like they came prepared at all. They were just mesmerized, probably by the fact that they were lacking the amount of days off after beating Washington. And even that series was very close. And I predicted the Panthers to sweep them. But right now, they look really flat. Because if the Panthers lose to the Lightning tomorrow or whenever the game is, if they lose game 2, the Cats are in trouble.
Right. Yeah. And I was kind of thinking, going back to the predictions, I mean, I was the opposite. I was thinking Tampa in 6. And part of it I'm thinking is that, I mean, they're very solid, especially up front, with their first line. They have good goaltending. They have probably one of the more complete teams in the East. And the thing that I'm noticing with Florida now, Florida has some great players. They seriously do. But the problem I'm seeing is that they barely made it out of Washington with that series, because
Oh
Washington
yeah,
came back and Ovechkin and his team were just totally fighting to the better end.
yeah.
So yeah, so Washington almost took that series, and I'm kind of surprised that they let up towards the end. But right now with Florida coming out flat against Tampa, you can't do that. Straight up, you can't do it, and
Well,
it cost them a game.
well, to be fair, Tom, Tampa came out really flat in Game 1 against the Leafs a couple of weeks ago.
Well, true, but then of course the Leafs are known to blow a series every year. So
Well, we kind of figured that was going to happen, but here I feel like it's very different. Tampa is way too experienced. They haven't. I mean, they won 2 freaking cups, and if they get past Florida, I'm almost convinced they're going back to the cup. I'm almost convinced.
I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, I'm almost thinking, realistically, I mean, if we were to get maybe like a Colorado versus Tampa final, that would be fun to watch.
Or maybe something like a Calgary Tampa rematch in 2004. That would be
Yeah,
fun too.
yeah, it seriously would. But Tampa is just too experienced in terms of these types of situations. And literally for Tampa, if they come out flat, it's not going to kill them. Florida, on the other hand, where they haven't been as deep in the playoffs as often, I just, I don't know.
I'm not sure either. I mean, they're on paper, they're very good. There's no question about that. But you can have all the numbers in the world in the regular season, but when it comes playoff time, it's a completely different beast. So
Mhm.
for the Panthers to come out that flat, it's just unacceptable.
Right.
You just
100%
can't
agree.
do that.
Yeah. You can't give it up that way. And then the other series in the East, and this is going to be an interesting one also, Carolina versus the New York Rangers.
I fully suspect Carolina in 7.
Yeah. Sorry, Regs. You're not
Yeah,
there.
I have no faith in. I mean, I can't say that the Rangers are a good team, but I feel like they're overachieving. The Hurricanes are just way too damn good, and it's only the first game of the series, and it's not the end of the world if Carolina loses. I mean, they're very good overall on paper. There is no question about the Carolina Hurricanes, but the Rangers, to me, they're a young team. They got some new pieces in play, and I just don't know if they'll get past Carolina. I will be very impressed if they get past Carolina, but I just don't see them getting past them at
Right.
all.
Carolina's too good.
Way too good. I mean, right now it's 15 minutes left in the third, and the Rangers are up 1-0 in Game 1. But again, it's a 7-game series, not a 1-game series. So
Right.
overall, all in all, though, the Rangers can win that first game, but I expect the Canes to bounce right back because that's what they're good at. They're good at
Mhm.
bouncing back in bad situations.
Yeah. Yeah. And they've played from behind multiple times this season in one game. So they know how to do it.
Hell, I wouldn't be shocked if Carolina tied it right now or within 10 minutes. I wouldn't be shocked.
Yeah.
And then sent the game to OT, and then Carolina wins it in overtime. I wouldn't be
Right.
shocked.
Right. It wouldn't be the first time they've ever done it. So
No, and it won't be the last.
yeah.
Unless what they have now, this would not be the last time.
Yep. Very true. So I mean, really from there, I mean, the playoffs are going to get even more interesting as we go forward. So, I mean, one of the things I'm kind of thinking, and I'll throw this up there now, in terms of who we currently have with the roster. I mean, I will say Tampa and Florida, I think the Lightning will win in 6. Out of Carolina versus the Rangers, I think Carolina, and I'm going to actually think, I'm going to call it, I think Carolina in 5. And the reason being is I just don't see New York matching Carolina the entire time. I just don't see it happening. Calgary and the Oilers out west, I am thinking that Calgary is going to probably take it, but I am going to say 7 games to do it. And then St. Louis and Colorado, I'm going to say the Avalanche in 6.
Okay. And then for me, I'm going to stick by my guns. I'm going to say the Blues in 6. There's just something about the Blues that I really like. They're very resilient. That I really like about them. I'm going to take the Blues in 6. In the Battle of Alberta, I'm going to take the Flames in 6. And in the Battle of Sunshine State, I'm going to take the Panthers in 6 over the Lightning, and then I'm going to take the Rangers and the Hurricanes. I'm going to take the Hurricanes at 7 over the Rangers.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah, I just, like I said, I think Carolina's just way too good not to be in that situation.
Right. Yeah, we'll see what happens with the playoffs. I mean, it's that time, so it's going to get more and more interesting as we dive in deeper to it. But really with that, I mean, we've already gone the full hour. Was there anything else you wanted to talk about before we wrap up for the week, or?
Nope, that's about it.
Yep, same here. So of course, as always, we want to thank all of you for coming in and joining us. We appreciate it. To our friends in Buffalo, just hang in there. You know, you've got the entire country behind you right now, and everyone's supporting. So, you know, just hang in there. Things will get better. And until then, guys, take care of yourselves and each other. We'll see you.
It's him.
Buffalo After Dark is an H&H Studio production and is produced in partnership with Horns and Hooves Entertainment.